Hello, welcome to another episode of Women Need to Do Better. I'm Shelly, your host, and I thank you for joining me because I understand time is valuable. Women Need to Do Better is a podcast for high achieving women with very high standards that are just go, go, go. And we don't really have a whole lot of time to ourselves because we typically end up prioritizing everybody else. And then the reason I call it Women Need to Better is because we do try to do better, but then even as much as we do and we perform and we give of ourselves, we still feel empty or exhausted and guilt for taking the time for ourselves or not prioritizing ourselves. So this is all about how do we get out of that type of funk and thought process of blaming ourselves for where we're at and actually really looking at what we're doing and recognizing how amazing we are. This week, we are in week 4 of a 6-week series on stress. Last week, I talked about saving versus helping and what that looks like when we are kind of not inclined to ask for help, even though we need it, and the different reasons why. If you didn't catch that episode, it's only about, I think it's like 16 minutes. So go ahead and check that out because this episode builds on that one. So this week, we're talking about stress triggers. And I thought it was only fitting because stress triggers are really kind of embedded in years and years of stories that we've been telling ourselves or experiences that we've been having. And I really wanted to address this because this is a real thing. A lot of times when we are going about our lives, we have so many things that we do. We are high performing women, we have jobs, we have families, we have our social lives, our friends, and we tend to put ourselves last. This is something that I've dealt with for many decades, and women I help also have dealt with this. And it's a common theme. Like, I do so much for everybody else, and by the end of the day or by the end of the week, I've failed to put myself first, or I've failed to put time in for myself so that way I can refill my cup and get the rest that I need. Or sometimes when we do that, we feel guilty because as we're trying to relax, we're not really relaxing because we're thinking about all the things that we're not doing because we're relaxing. And so it's kind of that double-edged sword. There are so many things on our plate, and there's so many things that we're trying to get done, that growing to-do list that just always seems to have things pile on faster than you can check them off. And for the most part, we can function that way. It's fine. And we're getting things done. Some days are better than others. Some days we get a lot more stuff done. We feel a lot better about it. And other days we really just struggle to get a few things done and everything feels heavy. So the stress triggers you will notice is when one thing goes wrong in your day, and then the whole day just kind of spirals out of hand from there. I don't know if you've ever had that experience. There's one time in particular that I remember, and this is kind of why I decided to do this series on stress. If you know anything about my backstory, my husband is medically disabled. He's got a lot of health issues. And so food is a big deal in his management for his health. And because of that, we've really changed and shifted how we eat and what we eat over the last 5 years. And you would think 5 years into it, it'd be really easier, right? That it shouldn't be that big of a deal. But it is for me because there's so many things that I handle. And with him being disabled, the responsibilities in the house have kind of shifted in a way that is a little bit more for me to manage. And I'm not complaining about it at all, but it just that's a real thing. So why I bring this up is one of the things that I sometimes even now still get stressed out. It's a little bit better, but when it was coming to a head is meals. And meals isn't just the making of the meals. It is the whole mental load of it. And that's what really gets heavy. And if you think about the stress in your life, it's not necessarily just the doing the things, it's really the mental load behind doing the things. A little bit of pulling from last week, the saving versus helping. If you're asking somebody for help and they say, oh, yeah, no, absolutely, I'll help you. Tell me what to do. Tell me. Oh my gosh. Tell you what to do. I can do it faster to just to do it myself than to explain direction step by step what I need you to do. I had a client once who came to me and she said, I'm trying to do the asking for help. I really am. And I was in the kitchen, I was making in the middle of trying to make dinner, and my kids are so picky, so they don't always eat the same thing. I was making the meal for the one kid, the other kid was, you know, hangry, and he came into the kitchen and I said, "Oh, honey, can you help me just feed you know, feed child number two?" And I said, "Oh, sure, I'll be happy to help you. What do you want me to feed him? What do you want me to do?" That's not helpful. How does that help? Use your eyeballs. Just make him something. And that's the mental load. So for me, the whole meal prep, the whole meal planning, meal prepping, all of that stuff, oh, as you can tell, it is a lot for me because it's a mental overload. It's the what will he eat? Because he's kind of picky on what he does eat. And so I have to try to think, what do we have in the house? What are things that he's going to eat? What do I have going on during the day? How much time do I have to prep? Do I need to take something out of the freezer and have it defrost before I make it? How long is it going to take me to make it? What appointments do we have? So when do I need to start the cooking? And the list goes on and on. I'm sure you can understand that kind of mental checklist, right? The mental load of, okay, oh, I can make that. Oh, shoot, but I forgot. We don't have, we're out of this. Okay, when can I squeeze in a quick visit to the grocery store? He doesn't like grocery shopping. How is he feeling? Is he able to walk today? Is he not able to walk? Is the sciatica flaring up? Is, the nerve issues going on? All the things. And it's trying to stay one step ahead, trying to second guess how he's feeling, what he's going to be in the mood to eat. Is he tired of eating this? Is he going to be willing to eat that? And so, meal prep, it's not just about making the meal. So, I went in and asked him, he was sitting down on the couch, and I said, "Hey, honey, what do you want for lunch today?" And then he's frustrated because he's so tired of trying to figure it out. He's feeling defeated. Like, no matter what I do, I'm getting tired of eating these foods. I can't eat the things that I used to be able to eat that I want to eat. And so he's flustered. And so he tells me food. I'm like, well, that doesn't really help me. Like, I I toss out ideas. Would you like chicken? Would you like steak? Would you like fish? Would you like, what kind of food do you want? I don't know. You know what? Just never mind. Just I just won't eat anything. And that is so stressful. And that triggered me. That triggered me because I was already trying to figure out how to plan my day around doctor's appointments, making sure he has something to eat before we go, making sure he's eating far enough ahead before we go so we don't have to use the bathroom while we're out and about because he doesn't like that. There's so much that goes into that mental load that is a lot to handle. So that triggered me. Him responding food or I just won't eat, it pissed me off. It really did. And it was all these thoughts, and I exploded. And then we got into a fight. And that's not where I wanted to go with him. And that's not where he wanted to go. But that's what I'm talking about, stress triggers. And it really wasn't that one interaction of him saying, I don't know what I want to eat, or just give me food, and then him seeing my frustration. He had a stress trigger. And he's like, he feels bad because he doesn't know what he wants to eat. He doesn't have an answer for me. And with everything else that he's dealing with, and emotionally and physically, he was on overload. So then I'm on overload. And two people on overload, guess what's going to happen? It's an explosion bound to happen. So that's why I talk about stress triggers. And if I think about what were the first thoughts on my mind? What was I thinking when he was like, just never mind, don't feed me? Guilt. That's where I went with that. I shouldn't have to ask him. I should know what kind of foods he eats. I'm just going to figure it out. He's got too much to deal with, so I'm just going to take that load and I'll just I'll just make something. Is it fair? Everybody's got an opinion about that. But it is what it is. He still needs to eat. I still need to make something. That's where the stress comes in. And so I'm learning through that. And I've got things in place now. So that way, the next time that happens, it doesn't explode like it did. And I used those tools. And the next time that I was in that, I don't want to say it was a panic, but it was definitely high stress because I had a lot of things going on that day. I really needed to have something simple and maybe leftovers or something that would not take a long time to make to feed him so that way I could get on with some priorities that had deadlines that were really important. And so fast forward to another story, another time, I go in and I say, "Hey, what would you like to eat?" Trying to give him the opportunity to, at least have a little bit of autonomy and decisions over his own food. And he was like, "I don't know food." And first thing I do is I pause. I talk about this all the time. When you start feeling yourself getting a little irritated, just kind of take a deep breath. Okay. I said, "How are you feeling today?" And sometimes just asking and checking in with the other person can help de-escalate both parties. And I could see the body language, the way he responded. Me asking him that question got him to think about what is going on in his own mind instead of just reacting, but being able to respond. And he's like, I'm really tired. And I know it's not your fault. And you shouldn't have to always try to figure out what I need to eat, but I'm sorry. And I just, I don't know. I don't know what I can eat. And it's so stressful and it's irritating. And I said, I understand. It is really stressful. It is frustrating. And it's nice to be validated. I know I like to be validated. When I'm feeling a certain way, if someone were to ask and check in with me, that could solve a lot of my stress in that moment when I'm starting to feel pressured. And that helped him in that moment, which helped me in turn. That stress trigger just kind of fell flat. It's like that balloon that's getting ready to pop because it's just so pressurized with all the air in it. And someone just says, "Hey," they check in and, "How are you feeling? I'm acknowledging you. I see. I see you." And not necessarily that they have to understand, but just having someone recognize his words to me of the "I know it's not your responsibility" or that you shouldn't have to carry that load. The words that he used showed me that he recognizes how much I'm holding. And that gave me energy. That helped me. That made me feel like, okay, you know what? I can handle this. I will do this. And so then I said, okay, well, we have this or this or this. I gave him three options. These are the things I can make. And he's like, oh, yeah, that second one sounds really good. I'll eat that. Problem solved. No escalation. But it's all about figuring out what are your stress triggers. Stress triggers are basically the stories that we've had in our head that when we're pushed, we replay old scenarios of how it played out. So if I go to the room and I ask my husband, "What do you want for lunch?" And he tells me, "I don't know." If I'm already overwhelmed, I'm easily triggered and my stress level is going to take off. And the reason it takes off is because I am replaying in my head all the many times, all the stories of all the work I've done in the past, coming up with meals, making something for him, and he sits down and he's like, "I don't want to eat this." All the effort to make the food, and then he eats a little bit, and then I have to put the rest away. It's not something I eat. He doesn't always eat the foods I like to eat. So if I make him something and he doesn't eat it, I don't want to waste food. but I don't want to eat it either, and no one else is going to eat it. So, of course, that's going to play on my stress. That's going to play on my frustration. It makes me feel unseen. It makes me feel frustrated because it's more work for me. Then I feel like I'm not taking care of my husband. And then I feel like, okay, I'm failing. I'm failing because I can't figure out what foods to give him that he's going to eat and enjoy. And food is one of my love languages. I like to cook, and I love it when people love my cooking. So if you think about what stresses you out, is there a common theme? Is there something that you're playing a story from the past as far as, gosh, every time I do, you insert whatever it is in the blank. This is always the outcome. And then you start telling your story. You start reinforcing that story. This is why I don't do this, or this is why I don't ask so and so for help. This is why I hate doing whatever it is. You're reinforcing that story. So you're going to continue to look for the same outcome. And because you're going to continue to look for that same outcome, it causes stress because it's not an outcome that you want. It is simple, but it's not easy. Being triggered by your stress really takes the time to kind of think about what is that first gut reaction? What is the first thought through your head? And then you dig deeper. Why are you having that thought? What has happened in the past that makes you believe that you're going to have the same outcome? And things can change. They absolutely change. I have people in my coaching programs all the time that are able to go from always being triggered and learning how to lessen that and figure out what works for them, because not everything is going to work for everybody. I can guarantee you that. But it is going to require you to kind of think about why these thoughts are coming to your head. What is it that's been in your past that creates that thought process in the future? And what they say about crazy is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So something has to change. But you can't change what you don't know is broken. So really the step that is the first thing is to recognize. If you don't acknowledge what it is that's going on in your head, you don't have any way to fix it. So think about the last time that you were triggered, the last time you just lost your shit, stressed out and spiraled out of control. What were the things going on? Was it just that moment, or was it something that built up to that? Was it the same person that you always have a certain outcome with? Because what I like to tell people is you can only control yourself. You cannot control how other people respond. That was part of my triggers, though, because I know that I can't control my husband. I can't control him any more than I can control my kids. Because if we could control other people, think about how much better our relationships would be, right? Your kids would be cleaning up their rooms, doing their chores, doing their homework, listening to you all the time. You wouldn't argue with your spouse because they would know exactly what it is that you're asking. They would just do it. And not like, after the 10th time you're nagging them. But that's the thing. It's just knowing yourself and knowing what stories you're going to tell yourself. How do you want this to look? And then recognizing that you can only ask, you can only control your response to the situation. And then you have to decide, are you going to let that bother you, or are you not going to let it bother you? Like in my example, my story today, if I go to my husband later on this week and I say, hey, honey, what would you like to eat for lunch? And if he is feeling however he's feeling, I can't control how he feels. I can't control the days that are going to be little just crappy, that he's hurting everywhere, that he's, tired, that he's whatever's going on. I don't have any control over that. And I have no control over how he's going to react because of how he's feeling. But I can go in and ask, what would you like for lunch, or this is what I'm going to make, or how are you feeling today? And if he's in a mood and he's just acting in his way, I have a choice for myself. And I'll be like, you're yelling at me and I don't like that. So I'm going to go and do XYZ. I love you. And I've done that. And I will tell you, some of the hardest things to work through as you're trying to figure out your stress triggers is when you first start doing that and you start understanding that you don't like the way that they respond, but you cannot control how they're going to respond. You can only control how you respond. You have to keep telling yourself it's okay that you remove yourself from that situation. It's okay if they're going to yell at you, you leave and you go and you do your own thing. Because I had the biggest amount of guilt before when he was upset. I felt like I needed to fix it. I felt like I needed to go in and try to calm him down or try to reassure him, try to reconnect and be like, look, it's going to be okay. Or let's talk about this. Let's get this out so that way you're not holding on to the anger. But that's not my job. That really isn't. And this is what we women do as high achievers, as the glue to the family, as the ones that people depend on. We keep on taking on these added responsibilities because we want to help. We love the people that we love. We love our families. We love our friends. Sometimes we even love on strangers, like someone I meet and they're telling me about what's going on. And I don't know why I feel obligated to help them, but I do. Like, I feel like, oh my gosh, the problem that you're telling me, I can totally see how you can fix this. And I want to go in and fix it for them. So that is where we end up taking on more responsibility than we really need to. And this whole stress series, the 2 more weeks we have, this is all the things that I talk about is how we end up putting more on our plates. And we kind of add to our own stress. If you want to be honest with yourself, look at what responsibilities you've chosen. And I know I've done it too. I make up the excuses. It's not that I'm choosing to do it, it's I need to do it, or people depend on me. Whatever excuse you have that I have to do this, I don't have a choice, you are still choosing. You just don't like the result if you don't do it. And sometimes we build into those stories about if I don't hold this, the whole world's going to fall apart or something terrible is going to happen. And I'm not saying that in every situation, but be honest with yourself. Look at the things that you're responsible for. Look at your to-do list. Do you really own all of it? Or is some of it something that you take on to protect somebody else or to help somebody else, which is really not helping, it's saving? This is why we have so much on our plate, because it's really hard to let go. And a bigger thing that's hard to let go, and trust me, I know this very intimately, is relational stress. My husband, after his last stroke, he has been a lot more emotional. There's a lot of things that emotionally just need to be managed differently. And it was brand new for us. It was brand new for him. And if you've ever had a loved one that has had a stroke, or if you've had a stroke, you can understand, because I tell you that experience really is the best teacher. And I'd say the last 8 or 9 years of some hard shit that I've gotten the privilege to learn and benefit from has definitely shifted how I see things. So that's why I do this, because I see things so differently now that I wish I had somebody like me to tell me and explain certain things so that I could have navigated through that a little easier. So I'm going to leave today's podcast. I'm going to kind of leave you with this. The stress triggers, basically what I want you to do, so that way it's going to be something to help you the next time that you are just feeling overwhelmed, exhausted, stressed out, so that you don't spiral is just number one, be gentle with yourself. Remind yourself that you are carrying a lot and you don't have to be perfect. And if someone's going to be disappointed with you, let them. They'll get over it. And if they don't get over it, then you know what? They're not meant to be in your space, anyways. But think about it. The next time that you're feeling really overwhelmed, try to learn that pause. It's one simple thing, one little step. And these little baby steps, as you implement them and practice them, they become habits and it becomes easier. Because it is simple, but it's not easy. Easy takes work to get there. I mean, think about tying your shoes. It was really hard when you first started to learn how to tie your shoes. For me, I was super frustrated learning how to tie my shoes. And now it's easy because I've been practicing it. So I want you to just kind of ask yourself, well, after you pause, where did you first start learning this story? Where do you think this is going to lead? Why you're basically trying to break down that stress on why is this triggering? Like, what story are you telling yourself, and why do you think that it's going to end up the way you think it's going to end up? Because you definitely have the power to change it. And then next week, we're going to be getting into walking on eggshells. We're going to dig deeper into those behind the scenes relationships. I know a lot of people, they feel like either I'm airing my dirty laundry or I'm ashamed and I don't want other people to know. So I will be vulnerable and I will tell you some experiences that I've had about relationships and people I care about, but how do I navigate when I feel like I'm constantly walking on eggshells? You know, whatever family dynamics, you can't really say what you want to say, or you're trying to second guess so that way you're trying to stave off what you think is going to happen in the future. Maybe you have a coworker where you're like, I need something done, but if I ask them this way, I don't need that conflict because I need the project finished. Those are the things that we're going to be talking and breaking down next week. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you listening. Please subscribe. And if you are interested, I have a link for my stress test. What kind of stressor are you? Check it out below and let me know. See you next week. Bye for now.